Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Purim Sameach. We're going to be talking a little bit about this week's Parsha as well as Purim. So this week's Parsha is Tetsava. Last week in Teruma, we talked about the outside of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. But this week, we talk a little bit more about the inside, specifically the Kohanim, the priests that spend their time doing all the rituals of the tabernacle. So the priests have very, very specific clothing that they wear. I'll put a picture on the screen of what it looks like. Very, very specific outfits in jewel tones. They have the choshen, the breastplate that has jewels for every one of the 12 tribes. They have these specific hats they wear. It's all very, very, very specific. And it's supposed to be really beautiful. That's specifically mentioned. It's supposed to be beautiful clothing. It seems a little counterintuitive to regular Judaism, right? Like that the Kohanim, the most holy people, have to wear beautiful clothing. Why does that seem counterintuitive? Why? Because Judaism, we're usually all about what's on the inside, nothing on the surface, nothing that's not meaningful, or do nothing that's superficial. But we learned something interesting from all the detail, all the descriptions, all the things about how beautiful it has to be. We learn a little bit something about what clothing is. So the word beged for clothing, begedim for clothing, actually comes from the word bagad, which means to betray. So that originates with the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. When they eat from the tree of knowledge, they realize that they are naked, because what does the tree of knowledge give them? It gives them the ability to see the superficial. And when they look, they don't just see themselves as pure souls. They see something that they realize they're not wearing clothes. So they put on clothing because they suddenly realize that the surface matters, which of course it doesn't, but they see that it matters. And so the clothing is a betrayal. The clothing is a betrayal to their souls. What we also learn is that in Kabbalah, that our bodies are the clothing of our souls, that our souls can be one way and our bodies can act another. So if you are feeling awful on the inside, but you act kind, or you're feeling kind on the inside, but act awful, eventually the outside actions, the clothing that you put on, it becomes you. So when we do things that we don't feel like doing, we are betraying our inside, but it's all for a good ending. And so when you act a certain way, and over time, it becomes that you actually do feel that way, that if you feel cruel on the inside, but you continue to act kind and you continue to act well, that eventually you will reflect it on the inside. And the same goes for the opposite, that if you are a meaningful, good person, but you feel like people only like you if you're superficial, eventually that will become the truth and you will betray your soul. So sometimes betraying your soul is good if you're betraying an evil soul, but sometimes betraying your soul is bad if you're betraying your good soul. So just an interesting thought for this parsha. Also, when it comes to hiding things or betrayal, it's also related to the story of Purim. So in the story of Purim, just a little recap of the story, we have Queen Esther, Esther Hamalka, who is a Jewish girl living in Persia, living in Shushan. She is chosen as the new wife for King Ahasuerus, to be his new queen, but she pretends to not be Jewish. She hears of a plot that Haman, the king's second advisor, is planning to kill all Jews. Why is he planning to kill all Jews? Because Haman, when he was promoted, he went around, expecting all the people of Shushan to bow down for him, but one person would not, and that person is Mordechai, Esther's cousin. So Haman was so offended by this act that Mordechai did that he decided, it's below me to just kill this one Jew. I'm going to kill all Jews. So Esther hears of this, and Mordechai encourages her, this is the moment perhaps that you have become queen. It is your job to save the Jewish people. So Esther puts her life on the line, says to the king, Haman has a plan, and if it goes through, I will be killed as well. And King Ahasuerus is like, oh my gosh, of course not. Haman, you will be hung, and all is well. All is well. So an idea that I've been thinking about is Esther is the hero. We love her. We grow up just absolutely idolizing her. We think of her as someone who's the ideal Jewish woman. But as I got older, I started to question, she's a woman who marries a non-Jew and who pretends not to be Jewish. I'm not saying that intermarrying is not good and that pretending to not be Jewish in certain situations is bad, but I started to wonder why Jews in the diaspora, Jews who are not living in Israel, why is their hero someone who's not necessarily the official ideal of what a Jewish woman should be? And the conclusion that I came to is that Esther is the imperfect hero because we are all imperfect and we all serve our purposes in the world. The diaspora is a place of imperfection. We don't live in Israel. We can't keep Shabbat 100%. We can't keep 100% kosher. We can't go to Shul every day. We can't go to Jewish school. There are lots of things that we give up when we live in the diaspora. But there's also a huge purpose that we serve, being out in the community, being Or Lagoim, light unto the nations. The Jews are not meant to just live in Borough Park in Los Angeles. We're meant to live out in the world, which means that we're not going to be perfect models of Jews always. But that doesn't mean that we're not good models of Jews. So just a thought to think about. Those are my thoughts. Please discuss what you think about Esther being a diaspora heroine, and let me know if your thoughts are the same as mine. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach, Chag Purim Sameach, and thanks so much for listening.